I had a recent discussion with somebody about the Akashic records. I wasn't going to make a video about it, but it just prompted me to think, well, maybe I'll do something different. So I want to talk about the Akashic records. Do you know what they are? They're apparently, what they're said to be is some sort of a cosmic place where the record of everything that's ever happened and perhaps that it's ever going to happen is there, and that you can access this place of records. Well, that sounds pretty crazy. Where does it come from? My name is Dan Paulson. Welcome to the video. So I want to start by saying very carefully that, there's something that transfers in the human collective. I'm going to go more with Carl Jung on this one and say that we live in a human collective and that we can share experiences, emotions, thoughts. There's patterns of things going on that we certainly see is there. However, the idea that there's Akashic records, that this is somehow that there's something that is stored that holds everything, this is something that I'm going to say I am not on board with that. But let's take a look at it and see where it comes from, where it originates, who's on board with it. And I'm a little leery about this because Akashic records believers tend to be kind of occultist kind of people that are, I'm just going to say wacko-headed a little bit. If you're watching, sorry. As a scream and yell, it's got to be this way or that way. You can never do anything or demonstrate anything. They're just wild-ass claims. Yet something's there. So let's try to nail this down. First of all, I want to say this, and I'll go ahead and bring up some information here to look at, but there's a lot of people that have been told that the Akashic records is something that is in Hindu teachings, and it is not. This is the problem with learning today and getting on the internet. People hear something and they go, oh, okay, I believe that. That sounds wonderful. It's Hindu. Then they go and they transfer that along as knowledge when it is completely wrong. They don't know it's wrong. This is the blind leading the blind. This is people just passing along stuff without ever asking about it. Akashic records does not come from Hinduism. It's very recent. It comes from recent occultist. Now, the term Akasha comes from Hinduism. Akasha, however, means sky or ether, something like that. So the term that Madame Blavatsky coined was Akashic records. What is that? Ether records, records of the universe, records of the sky, something like that, is essentially what it means. But that term is very recent. No, Akashic records did not exist until about the 19th century when that term was coined by and developed under some New Age religious thinking. Now, this is why it's dicey, because there's something there and people will say this proves the Akashic records. It really doesn't. You know what? Let me go ahead and pull up something here to look at. Okay. Other sources, Akashic records. I copied and pasted this because something's wrong with my program here. I can't quite get my browser to show up on my thing. My computer's old and my software is free. So anyway, Rudolf Steiner, Edgar Cayce. All right, we're talking about we're really off the mainstream right there. Okay, I have studied Edgar Cayce quite a bit, not Rudolf Steiner, because I just didn't get into the movements. But Edgar Cayce I got into for quite a while. I really appreciated what he did, but as I went through, I found out how long it went on and how ambiguous it really was. At some point, I realized, you know what, with practice and the right mindset, anybody could do that. I don't think he was pulling anybody's leg. I think he was genuine, and he just felt that way. He was a good guy. But I don't think what he did was really that significant if you look into it deep. Okay, so... but I'm not without knowledge there, but that's not the purpose of this. Let's see. In the religion of Theosophy and the spiritual movement of Anthroposophy, the Akashic records are believed to be a compendium of all universal events, thoughts, words, emotions, and intent ever to have occurred in the past, present, or future regarding not just human, but all entities and life forms. They are believed by Theosophists to be encoded in a non-physical plane of existence known as the mental plane. There is no evidence for the existence of Akashic records, and the concept has seen little academic attention or rigorous scientific research. Okay, compendium, a list, everything that has ever happened, that is going to happen in physical motion, reaction, no matter what, everything is already there, stored someplace in the universe somewhere, and people are going to claim to have access to that. All right, let's read on further. Here it is, Akasha, Sanskrit, word for ether. I think I said Hindu. I meant Sanskrit. It's a Sanskrit word for ether, sky, or atmosphere. There you go. Akashic records, that means sky records or atmospheric records. History, Theosophical Society. The Sanskrit term Akasha was introduced to the language of theosophy through Helena Blavatsky, 1831-1891, who characterized it as a sort of life force. She also referred to indestructible tablets of the astral light, recording both the past and future of human thought and action, but she did not use the term Akashic. The notion of an Akashic record was further disseminated by Alfred Percy Sinnett in his book Esoteric Buddhism, when he cites Henry Steele Olcott's A Buddhist's Catechism. Olcott wrote that Buddha taught two things are eternal, Akasha and Nirvana. Everything has come out of Akasha in obedience to a law of motion inherent in it and passes away. Nothing ever comes out of nothing. That sounds like cause and effect. Then we've got by C.W. Ledbetter's Clairvoyance. The association of the term with the idea was complete, and he identified the Akashic records by name of something a clairvoyant could read. So we can see that the Akashic records morphed. It developed. The term Akasha came on board, then the records, and then it became this Akashic records. And it was something that a clairvoyant could read. In his 1913 Man, Whence, How, and Whither, Ledbetter claims to record the history of Atlantis and other civilizations as well as the future society of Earth in the 28th century. So there you go. Somebody writes books on that, and they say that they've had access to something you can't get access to. Yeah. How does that work? Alice A. Bailey wrote in her book, The Light of the Soul, on the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, book union achieved in its results. The Akashic record is like an immense photographic film registering all the desires and earth experiences of our planet. Those who perceive it will see pictured thereon the life experiences of every human being since time began, the reactions to experiences of the entire animal kingdom, the aggregation of the thought forms of a karmic nature based on desire of every human unit throughout time. Only a trained occultist can distinguish between actual experience and those astral pictures created by imagination and keen desire. So everybody's going to see something, but they've made it clear that only certain people are going to see the right thing. If you see something, you got to be a trained occultist to make sure you're right. You know, there's something that's said in this, though, that I'm okay with the sounds of, and that is this idea that actual experience and those astral pictures created by imagination and keen desire. So what I get out of this one right here is if there's something to see beyond there, is it being filtered by what you want and what you believe, or are you seeing it objectively throughout? I mean, are you seeing what is there without the filters of your own judgments in place? Created by imagination and keen desire. Imagination and keen desire are going to be happening in a mind that is not objective. You got to slow your mind down and let it be open to what's there. Imagination and keen desire is not doing that. It's plugging in what is there. So I like the sounds of that right there. That makes sense to me. In fact, upon further reflection, I find a Jesus parallel to this one, honestly. And that is, if you want to help your brother remove the mote out of their eye, you have to first remove the mote out of yours. This is all spiritual. So in order to understand what somebody else has going on, you must have cleared out your own judgments first. As long as you're living through a pile of your own judgments, you can't effectively help somebody else see what they're talking about because you're filtering what they're saying. You're not looking at it objectively. You're not hearing it objectively. The only way you could listen and help somebody else objectively is to have your mind and your judgments gone. And I'm going to stop and explain here. The eye in this case is the eye of perception, how you view life. You're observing something and go, that looks fun. Somebody else might look at it and go, those stupid people, they're going to die. They're both looking at it through their own eye of perception. Whatever it is that they believe in, that they're perceiving that with, that's the eye right there. So the eye then is how you perceive life, but the perceptions come through the memories and the emotional state of those memories. That's why we all view things differently. We got different brain types, but we also have different experiences. Some people might be excited about something while somebody else is fearful of the same thing. What's happened? What do you believe? These are mental processes. And in this case, we're seeing kind of hints of that same thing, that if you're looking at something with judgments, the difference is what? In this case, I'm saying if we're looking at and trying to read something out there, it's coming from a human collective and from the person that we're with and the situation that we're in, where they're claiming it comes from some big universal, humongous outside of that only they can get access to. And I think we all have access to that if we clear out the mote from our own eye. I guarantee you've accessed that field and you've felt it emotionally. If there's a time where you have been in some sort of a worship situation where you were caught up into it and you felt somehow emotionally elevated in a way that you're looking around going, what the hell is this? I am caught up in something here that's just bigger than I am. That's it right there. We're in that collective. That same thing will happen when people go to protest and just do all kinds of hateful things that they wouldn't go do that on their own. They might look at themselves later and go, what the hell got into me? Yeah, that's what happens. We're in those fields. So we are accessing that when that happens. Putting it as some sort of an intelligent, I don't know, some sort of an energy-based cosmic library out there is pretty far-fetched. What's the medium? What? There's a lot of explaining to do to say something like that. The Austrian theosophist and later founder of anthroposophy. I don't know how to even pronounce it. It's weird stuff. That's him up here at the top, up here with Edgar Cayce. That top picture. That's Rudolf Steiner. Let's see. Used the Akashic Records concept mainly in a series of articles in his journal Lucifer Gnosis, Lucifer Knowledge, from 1904 to 1908, where he wrote about Atlantis and Lemuria, topics related to their purported history and civilization. Besides this, he used the term in the title of lectures on a fifth gospel held in 1913 and 1914, shortly after the foundation of the Anthroposophical Society and Steiner's exclusion from the Theosophical Society Adyar. All right, I'm not going to keep reading it because it talks about Edgar Cayce a little bit and then Prince in one of his albums and other weird things going on in comic books, and it's been used in different things, the Akashic Records. But if that's where it's being used, it kind of tells you where. You know what, if Akashic Records show up in really kind of new age, occultic sort of religions that are morphing, grabbing a little bit of this, a little bit of that, adding some of this, it really is a strange thing when you look at it. If you see the bits and pieces where it comes from, it's the evolution of humans and trying to explain things in ways. We all try to explain things, and if you apply your mind to something, you're going to come up with explanations. Okay, Jesus has something going on that I want to talk about that I am more inclined to bring into play right here as something that's accurate, and I'm just going to paraphrase it because we know it. It's in the Gospels. There's a few variations to it, but in a nutshell, it's where he is teaching the multitude, and they're all hungry at the end of the day, and they have to eat before they go. But there's only a minimal amount of food, so Jesus breaks up all of the food and feeds the multitude, and not only does everybody get their fill, but there's more left over than when they had to begin with. So you look at that and you don't interpret and go, miracle, that's kind of somehow something happened there that's just, yeah, we can't figure that out. But if you look at it as a spiritual teaching, what you're understanding is that what you're consuming and what you're eating and what you're feeding people is bread. It's knowledge. It's good food. It's good knowledge. And that as you're teaching and as you are conveying what you know, when you get done, not only have you taught other people, but you know more because you've figured things out as you're going through this process. You're going, oh, and this, oh, and that. You're bouncing off of people, you're engaging your mind. Somehow you're growing into the material more when you're engaging with other people. When I started my channel, I thought one of the things that would help me learn was if I started making videos on what I'm fumbling with. I'll do my best to make it. And sure enough, as soon as I started doing that, I started becoming aware of things more and more. It's almost like this growth happens. And where does that come from? How do I read something and go, I don't understand that. That's weird. And then 3 days later, you go, oh, I got it now. Where did the answer come from? It's times like this where a natural process is kicking in, but it can look magical to people because it's coming in that collective. You're getting the knowledge from somewhere, but at the same time, your mind is stretching. You're not coming up with anything new. You're coming up with things that people can come up with. But if you look at the mind, you could look at other things like, well, we've developed aircraft and things like that. People weren't. Was that in the Akashic records? Those are new things. Those aren't old. Or is it at some point it gets so far-fetched you're thinking, no, I think the human mind, when you're grasping for something and stretching for something and working for something, your mind grows that way. Your mind grows towards what you focus and what you put your attention on all the time. And when your life is all over the place and go, I don't get how that works, it's because your mind is all over the place. You have to really minimize things and focus down on very small stuff. We get so many things going on. You've only got so much energy to use if you want to accomplish something, but you're using, only a small percentage of your energy to accomplish that while you're doing all kinds of other stuff all the other time. It's going to be a struggle. There's a point where we're focusing on things, but we're learning things, and our brains are like, you want that knowledge? We're going to grow into it. There's times I've worked on project and developed and built things on my own, where I had ideas, but I'm at the hardware store sometimes looking at parts, or the hobby store looking at gears and servos and control arms and things like that. And they'll come up and say, what vehicle do you have? And you're like, I don't have a vehicle. I'm just making something up. And they're like, okay, got it. You're one of those geeks. You cobble a bunch of things together to make it work, but you're putting it together in your mind. The mind can just do that naturally. I don't think we're going off into some secret place and tapping into records and coming up with stuff. Certainly you can't. I could ask you questions about my relatives that I know about. Mystic. I bet you can't go pull that knowledge and come and tell me about it. Yeah, this is like crystal ball territory when you start talking Akashic records. Nevertheless, there is something there that we function through. I heard Larry's dead before I found my brother as a kid. There was something already connected between his mind and mine before I physically found him. But it was natural. It was his brain calling out in the cosmos to mine. And we're perceiving this somehow in that energy field where we're in the collective. But since it's coming in through something other than the five senses, it's like, there's the magic right there. Meanwhile, no, it's just coming in through the back door. You're not seeing it. You're paying attention to the front, but the five senses, when it comes in from somewhere else, we don't catch it. That's the emotional field. You just sense fear. You sense joy. That's a good way to evolve. If I feel fear, I don't know why. Maybe somebody heard a rustle over there. That's all it takes. The whole group feels fear and runs. It might only be a rabbit. But if it's a lion, you're dead. You're going to just automatically feel that. So we've got a strong field, a collective field that we operate within. Anyway, if you're the kind of person that takes off on like weekends, I got to get out of here, and you drive out from the city, there's a place beyond a bridge, beyond some place where you hit, where you feel like, I've disconnected from that. It's like you're getting out of the energy of the mass of people or something. If you look and pay attention, sometimes you feel like, God, I'm impatient. And you might stop and think, why am I impatient? There's no reason for me to be impatient. And you look around and realize you're in line or something, and people are impatient. You're picking up on them. You're sensing something. If you start paying attention to that, you'll understand that's what's there. Anyway, Akashic records, no, you can see what's happening there. At the same time, the human has the capacity to connect in ways that we need to pay attention to. And if we clear out the perceptions up here, we do a better job at that. We see things more clearly. All of those intuitive hits we get are coming through a pure mind instead of getting scrambled up with frequencies and weird things and perceptions that are not correct, because we have a mind full of memories that are unresolved, that the mind flits and it's confusing, and we've got too many things to do and all that. So if you also remember, and just reason this out for yourself, when we're little kids, that's when the deja vu, and you look up, and the door pops open. You knew something's there. It doesn't really help you, but it's like somehow you look and go, boy, there was hits. I was in a field in a flow back then that slowly decays. What happens? We have lost it through our memories. We've become so full of accumulated memories that we're living through. We're no longer living through that pure state. We want to get back to that pure state. Anyway, okay, that's my thoughts on it. Akashic records, no, they don't exist in that manner. There's no way. Yet at the same time, I know that you could take 2 books and put them in a black hole. And once they go in and they mix and blend, we cannot read them anymore. All the information is there. All the knowledge is there. Yet it has decayed to the point that we're never going to perceive it again. So it's like, so what if it's always there? You're not going to get it again. It's gone. It has decayed beyond a certain point. We're a part of something else that's decaying that's going to continue on. This is a process right here. It doesn't look that way to us. It almost seems like in a cosmic sense that we're somehow life emergent in the cosmic flotsam of, I don't know, quantum energy, quantum foam or something, where you look around at that cosmic web and go, you know what, all this is energy everywhere, but all these strings where the matter and stuff are, we're in that mass right there. It's like, but everything is the energy field. Anyway, okay, yeah, there is something bigger, but I would not put a claim like that on something and just say that's it and I got access to it and you don't. But there's some things about it that are true, and there's some things that it looks like she's copying from somewhere else, or they are. Whatever the what was that here? This part. Blavatsky, who characterized it as sort of a life force, she also referred to indestructible tablets of the astral light. What does that sound like? Emerald tablets of Thoth, the 10 Commandments, the tablets of fate from the Babylonians. So she's pulling from other places as well. That indestructible tablets of astral light is another way of using that. She's grabbing from here and there and just putting her own. She's changing the analogous verbiage. In fact, if you think about it for a second, God knows all, sees all, has everything. I mean, that's the plan right there. That's exactly what the Akashic records sound like, except for one thing. God is an entity that thinks and does things. The Akashic records is simply a storage place for you to access. See that? It's just a shift in God and a shift in the 10 Commandments. Yeah, there's your emerald tablets. There's your, I'm sorry, there's your Akashic records right there. Yeah, same thing. Okay, well, breaking it down. That's why I don't like doing videos on stuff like that necessarily. I mean, they're fun to talk about a little bit, but they don't really get you anywhere. It is disheartening sometimes for me to see people put stock into stuff like this as if this is right here. That's the true stuff right there. And you're like, oh my God. It never ends. If it's not one outward road leading to destruction, it's another. If you can't find the way inward, you don't find the way. All right. Akashic Records. There's my thoughts. See you in the next video.